Here's the expanded version, written longer with more detail and transitions, still in the same explainer style, direct in text. Before you order your next pizza, you need to understand one thing that almost nobody thinks about at the counter. At Pizza Hut, the crust you pick can matter more than the topping you pick. Two people can walk up, order what they think is basically the same pizza, and walk away having ordered two completely different calorie counts, all because of one choice they made, without even realizing it mattered. Today we are going through the entire Pizza Hut menu, category by category, so you know exactly where the calories are actually hiding, and more importantly, why they're hiding there in the first place. Let's start with crust, because this is genuinely the biggest single variable on the whole menu, bigger than any topping you could choose. Thin and crispy is your lightest option by a wide margin. The crust itself contributes only around 60 calories before a single topping goes on top of it, and a full slice of plain cheese pizza on thin and crispy generally lands somewhere between 190 and 230 calories depending on size. That is genuinely one of the lightest full pizza slices you can order anywhere in a fast food restaurant, and most people walk right past it because it doesn't look as indulgent sitting in the display case. Hand-tossed crust sits comfortably in the middle of the pack. It's noticeably more dough than thin and crispy, which means more carbohydrates and more calories per slice. But it hasn't been baked in the oil the way pan crust has, so it doesn't carry the same fat load. Then you get to original pan crust, which is Pizza Hut's signature style, and also where the calories start climbing fast. Pan crust picks up extra calories specifically from the oil it's baked in, which is what gives it that crispy, almost fried edge people love, and that oil is also exactly why a single slice with toppings can push well past 280 calories before you finish chewing your first bite. And then there's stuffed crust, sitting at the very top of the calorie chart. And it's worth noting this crust style only comes in large pizzas, which is not an accident. A single slice of stuffed crust can run anywhere from around 340 calories up to 440 calories once you factor in the full ring of cheese baked directly into the crust edge. That same slice can carry more than 20 grams of fat and close to 1,000 milligrams of sodium, all in one piece of pizza. So just to be clear about the scale here, your crust choice alone, before any topping decision, can be the difference between a 190-calorie slice and a 440-calorie slice. That's more than double, from crust alone. Now let's layer toppings onto that foundation, because toppings behave completely differently depending on which category they fall into. Vegetable toppings barely move the needle at all. Onions, peppers, mushrooms, and similar toppings add close to zero fat and only a small handful of extra calories, which is exactly why a veggie lover's slice built on thin and crispy crust ends up being one of the lightest full slices anywhere on the menu, generally sitting around 180 calories. That's a real filling slice of pizza for less than what a lot of granola bars cost you. Meat toppings tell a completely different story. Pepperoni, Italian sausage, and seasoned beef all bring real fat and real sodium with them, stacking directly on top of whatever your crust has already contributed. This is exactly why a fully loaded supreme pizza slice, especially on a heavier crust like pan or stuffed crust, can land well north of 300 calories before you've even finished your first piece. And if you're eating 2 or 3 slices in a sitting, that adds up fast without you necessarily noticing it happening. Now let's move away from pizza entirely and talk about WingStreet, because the calorie range here is actually wider than most people expect walking in. Bone-in wings run anywhere from about 80 calories on the low end up to 260 calories on the high end per wing, depending almost entirely on which sauce you choose. Traditional bone-in wings are genuinely the better nutritional choice here, because they skip the heavy breading that boneless wings are built around. Boneless wings are essentially breaded, fried chicken breast pieces that then get coated again in sauce on top of that breading, which is exactly why boneless wings carry noticeably more carbohydrates per piece than bone-in wings do, even before you account for the sauce itself. If you're trying to keep your wing order on the lighter side without giving up flavor, garlic parmesan tends to run around 100 calories per piece, making it one of the leaner sauce options on the entire board. Heavier glazed sauces, the sweeter and thicker ones, push individual wings up toward that 260-calorie ceiling, so the sauce you pick can matter almost as much as whether you go bone-in or boneless in the first place. From there, let's talk about the pasta and melts category. because this section quietly contains some of the single heaviest items sold anywhere on the menu, and most people never think to compare it against pizza directly. Take the oven-baked meaty marinara pasta as an example. A full order comes in at roughly 900 calories, which makes it one of the most calorie-dense individual items Pizza Hut sells. Heavier gram for gram than most full pizza orders eaten slice by slice. Melts and Tuscany pastas as an entire category consistently rank among the most calorie-dense sections of the whole menu, and the reason is structural, rather than about any one ingredient being unusually bad. These dishes stack multiple layers of cheese, sauce, and pasta, or bread, directly on top of each other in one dense dish, instead of spreading those same calories out across several thinner slices the way a pizza naturally does. So a pasta dish and a pizza can use very similar ingredients and still land in completely different calorie territory, simply because of how the dish is structured. Now let's get into sides, because sides are honestly where a lot of people lose track of their real total without realizing it. Sides don't feel like the meal psychologically. They feel like an afterthought you barely think about, while you're focused on the pizza itself, which is exactly why they're so easy to underestimate. A single breadstick on its own runs around 140 to 150 calories, which sounds small in isolation until you remember that a typical order usually includes several of them, not just one. Garlic knots come in meaningfully heavier, landing around 280 calories for a standard order of 4 pieces, more than double a single breadstick. And then there are the dipping sauces, which might honestly be the single most underestimated calorie source on the entire Pizza Hut menu. A 1.5-ounce cup of garlic dipping sauce, something that looks almost too small to matter, can carry around 290 calories and roughly 34 grams of fat. Ranch dipping sauce isn't far behind, at around 220 calories and 24 grams of fat, all packed into a container barely bigger than a shot glass, sitting on the corner of your tray. Compare that against marinara dipping sauce, which sits at only around 30 calories with virtually no fat at all, and you start to see how swapping one dip for another can quietly save you the calorie equivalent of an entire extra side dish, without changing a single other thing about your order. People spend real effort calculating their pizza slice by slice, and then unconsciously add back 30% of those calories in dip, without a second thought. For dessert, cinnamon sticks are the headline item on the menu, and depending on exact portion size and whether the icing or cream cheese frosting dip is included in that count, you'll see this item reported anywhere from about 170 calories on the low end up to 400 calories on the high end for a full order. The icing or frosting dip specifically accounts for a meaningful chunk of that range, meaning the breadsticks themselves are fairly modest, and the sweet dip is doing a lot of the caloric heavy lifting. The ultimate Hershey's chocolate chip cookie sits close by at around 200 calories, with close to 28 grams of carbohydrates, making it a genuinely comparable choice to the lighter end of the cinnamon sticks range, if portion control on dessert matters to you personally. Now let's zoom out and look at full combo meals, because this is where the calorie math stops being about individual items and starts becoming about your entire day in one sitting. A dinner box built around a large one-topping pizza, breadsticks, and a medium soft drink lands around 3,050 calories total for the whole box. The big dinner box, which doubles the pizza portion and adds breadsticks without including a drink, comes in around 5,200 calories for the entire box. And to be fair, that box is genuinely built to be split across multiple people, rather than finished by one person in a single sitting. Even a smaller, wings-focused combo made up of boneless wings, a regular order of fries, and a medium soda still adds up to roughly 1,320 calories on its own. And that single combo meal is already well over half of a full day's calorie target for a lot of people, all from what feels like a normal, modest fast food order rather than an indulgent one. So here's the actual takeaway from everything we just walked through. The pizza itself is very rarely the real problem, and it's usually not even the biggest number on your tray. Your crust choice alone can double your calories per slice before a single topping is ever added. Dipping sauce alone can quietly add the calorie equivalent of an entire extra side dish to a meal you already thought you'd fully accounted for in your head. And a bundled meal deal that combines a pizza with sides and a drink can clear half of your entire daily calorie budget in one single sitting, without a single item on the receipt, looking unusually large on its own. None of this means you can't enjoy any of it, because you absolutely can. It just means the crust and the dip are doing far more damage to your total than the topping you agonized over ever will, and now you actually know exactly where to look before you order instead of after. One quick note before you go. All of these numbers are approximate figures pulled from published nutrition data and menu tracking sources, and exact totals can shift depending on your region, ongoing recipe updates, and the exact serving size you're actually handed. If you want precise numbers for your specific order, check Pizza Hut's official nutrition calculator directly before you finalize anything. Drop a comment and tell me which single item on this list actually surprised you the most, because it's rarely the pizza that shocks people. And let me know down there which restaurant chain you want broken down by calories next, because this format is clearly one people want to see more of.